Hi, and welcome to Focal Point AFR Talk, the second hour of this Thursday edition of Focal Point on AFR Talk. 888-589-8840 is the number to call, 888-589-8840. Weave your phone calls in throughout this second hour. Found that story I was telling you about. This just cracks me up. This is a piece by Stephen Goddard on his website. 3 weeks ago, they announced that they were going to row the Northwest Passage because global warming made it possible. Now, they say that the trip isn't possible because it is too cold and there is too much ice. Oh, that's our catastrophic global warming alert. The little kayak trip across the North Pole canceled because of ice. Now, speaking of ice, as of July 15, the Arctic sea ice was 9,000 Manhattans above the level a year ago. In other words, you take the island of Manhattan, you multiply that 9,000 times, that's the amount of sea ice in the Arctic more than there was last year at the same time. 9,000 Manhattans more Arctic sea ice this year than there was the same time last year, and yet they are trying to tell us that the Arctic sea ice is melting and it is catastrophic. When you go down to Antarctica, the Antarctic sea ice is now the second highest on record for this date. The only time in history where there has been more Antarctic sea ice was in 2010 on this date. This is the second highest amount of sea ice in Antarctica. So in the Arctic, 9,000 Manhattans more ice this year than last. And in the Antarctic, the second highest level of sea ice ever recorded. Those are our Fisher factoids for the day. Here's another global warming myth, and then we'll go to the phones. Another global warming myth bites the dust. The global population of polar bears, it turns out, has increased by between 2,600 and 5,700 since 2001. Now, here is your Fisher factoid for the day. These are the official population estimates generated by the Polar Bear Specialist Group. I think the Polar Bear Specialist Group. I think that's some kind of UN outfit. Anyway, they tabulate the population of polar bears. And remember, you've seen the pictures of the poor polar bear sliding away into oblivion on the ice floe. You got the polar bear hugging the guy in the driveway because he's driving some kind of fuel-efficient car and he's saving the earth and all of that kind of thing. Well, it's just all garbage. It's all swell. There are more polar bears today than there were in 2001. Here it is. Global population of polar bears has increased by 2,650 to 5,700 since 2001. I guess they got to do a range because you can't go up to their igloo and ring the doorbell and do a census. You got to count them from the air and stuff like that. But let me repeat that because that's your Fisher factoid for the day. Somebody brings up the polar bears. Vanishing polar bears, global warming, it's terrible. Tell them about the rowers trying to row across the Arctic, had to quit, too much ice. Tell them about 9,000 more Manhattans worth of ice in the Arctic than there was last year. Tell them that Antarctic sea ice as the second highest level ever recorded for this date in July. And then tell them that according to the people that study this for a living, there are between 2,600 and 5,700 more polar bears this year than there were in 2001. Just round it off to 5,000. There are 5,000 more polar bears now than there were in 2001. So those are your Fisher factoids for the day. Let's go to Monty in Virginia. Monty, thanks for calling and thanks for waiting. What's on your mind?
Ryan, thank you. I'm in Culpeper, as you know, Virginia.
Yes, sir.
You had brought up about the cold issue and electricity and building those electric cars.
Yeah.
I tell you something that's worse than that is that with this governor's campaign you were referring to in Virginia, I am not a guru on a computer, But I cannot even dial up the simplest fact without having that campaign with the negative smear that the Democrats, and I'm not even going to say his name because I don't even want to repeat the opponent, but anyway, it's ridiculous.
The way they're smearing Ken Cuccinelli you're talking about?
Absolutely. Ken will get so smeared by ridiculous garbage and ill fact that you can sway an election here in Virginia by the stupidity of what you put on the computer, and it's sad. But I just wanted to tell you, I just love your show, and thank you for all you do, and we in Virginia just love you, and thank you for all you do.
Well, I appreciate that, Monty. Thank you very, very much, and it's great to hear from you again. Monty's been a caller to this program before. Glad to have you back. You know, and I can believe this. I haven't followed that campaign closely. I've read quite a bit about it, but I haven't tracked it as closely, obviously, as Monty would, or maybe Kenny in Virginia, who's our next caller. But you can count on the fact that the Democrats will smear Cuccinelli because they've got nothing else to do. They can't attack him on the ideas. They can't attack him on ideology. They can't attack him on philosophy. So they have to make up stuff. They've got to fabricate stuff. They've got to come up with lies. And because the propagandists in the media are effective at this, they'll get a lot of people who aren't paying careful attention, get a lot of people to believe those outrageous smears, those outrageous lies. Let's go to Kenny in Virginia. Kenny, welcome to Focal Point. What's on your mind?
I just had a couple comments. First, I want to thank you for your boldness, speaking the truth without apology. And also, I wanted to let you know that I got a 16-year-old son that I was picking up every day after school, and he would always want to listen to you. So if I didn't have the radio on, he said, Dad, well, I come Brian Fisher's not on. So he listened to it every day coming home from school. And the only other two comments I have is I think the global warming is just a myth based on lies. And then the other comment I want you to maybe say something about, I had this thought today about Ted Cruz and Alan West running for the White House.
Whoa, as a team, as a ticket?
Yeah, as a ticket.
Yeah, Alan West is the vice presidential candidate and Ted Cruz at the top of the ticket?
Yes.
Yeah. Well, you know, that's a very, very enticing ticket. I've got a couple of Ted Cruz sound bites we're going to play here in just a little bit. But, you got, and Ted Cruz, I read an article on Salon or someplace like that Ted Cruz can beat Hillary Clinton in 2016. This is an uber left-wing website. Hillary Clinton really is about the only candidate that the Democrats have right now. So she's sort of considered to be the front runner. And basically, it sounds like a lot of Democrats have even ceded the crown to her. And this left-wing writer said, look, Ted Cruz can beat her in 2016. So, who knows how the landscape is going to be when we get closer to the primary season and all that. But you've got Rand Paul as a very attractive candidate in a lot of ways. You've got Rick Perry in Texas, who's a very attractive candidate in a lot of ways. And then you've got Ted Cruz, who has just absolutely been tearing it up since he's gotten to the Senate. You talk about a guy that takes no prisoners. He's got a freshman that has just rattled every cage in Washington, D.C., started the Wacko Bird Caucus. I'd love to be an honorary member of the Wacko Bird Caucus. So Senator Cruz, I believe, would make a very attractive candidate in 2016 for conservatives. Thanks for the call, Kenny. Focal Point AFR Talk.